Hello there, my name's Claire and this is Stitch Home. So thank you so much for joining me today for another video. Now today's video is a bit of a catch up on how I'm getting on with my Make 9 plan. So we're kind of halfway through the year, and so I thought it would be a great point to kind of check in and see how I'm getting on with those 9 sewing plans. So I'm going to pop an image in of my Make 9. So there was I did it in a slightly different way this year, and the first item on there was the parka coat, the second was the Lyra dress from Tilly and the Buttons, the Estelle dress by Sew Over It, and then moving down I wanted to make an item from 3 different sewing books that I have. So one was from the Cashmerette book, one was from the Summer Dreaming ebook, and one was from the last year's Sewing Bee book. Another item that I wanted to make was something from some Boucle fabric that I had. Another item was some trousers. I wanted to make a pair of trousers, and the last item was to make a bag. So let's have a look at how I've been getting on with those plans. Now I'm not going to do it in necessarily any particular order of how I've made them, just kind of how I've got them laid out. So the first item that I've got to show you is my bag. Now this is the Weekender bag by Sew Over It, that I have kind of slightly hacked, if you like, because I wanted to do it as a quilted version. Now I've used foam fabric, like a fusible foam fabric on the inside to give it some real structure, and I've quilted the outside in this really lovely fabric from by Graziella. Absolutely love it. And then on the inside I've just got a navy, plain navy cotton fabric. I've popped a couple of slip pockets on the inside, not that you're going to be able to see that particularly well, and then on the outside it's got these lovely pockets here, which was part of the pattern, but because I've done quilting, I've added kind of a bias binding strip at the top. I've also added bias binding along the top of the bag, and I've also bound the inside of the zip, just because I wanted a really neat, clean finish. Some of it I've hand stitched down, so this bit on the inside of the zip I've hand stitched down, but on the tops I've top stitched it down on the actual bag, and all the seams inside are bias bound as well, just because I wanted a really crisp finish on the inside. I'm really pleased with how this has turned out. I've finally got to use it. I made this, I think, right at the beginning of the year, and I have finally got around to using it. I went away for the weekend with a couple of girlfriends and it was the perfect size. So yeah, really chuffed with that. And actually you will see just behind me in the same fabric I have got this little pouch here. Now this is a pattern by Adam Sews. It's a trio of pouches that he's designed. This is the large size. There's also a medium and a small, but it's made in the same sort of fashion, although I've used fusible fleece for the quilting part rather than foam, because I didn't think it needed such a structure on this particular item. So yeah, that's my first item made from my Make 9. My next item is probably the most involved make that I've ever done, and probably my proudest make to date, and it is the parka coat that I made for my husband. Now this took a lot of time, shall we say, not so much actually in the making, but in the kind of getting round to making. I put it off, I procrastinated, I didn't want to do it, so I put it on my Make 9 to kind of, right, beginning of the year, you're gonna do it. And actually when I did actually do it, I loved it. I had such a great time sewing this up, and the great thing is that he really likes it and he has worn it lots. Now he often chooses to wear it without the hood, just because the hood is the only bit that's actually lined on the pattern, and if I'm honest with you, it does drag the coat down a smidge. So he does choose to kind of wear it often without the hood, but he does really like it. You've got kind of a cinched in at the waist if you want to with a drawstring. It's got pockets at the top and pockets at the waistline. It's a long line. It's got that sort of very traditional bit at the bottom where it comes down into a bit of a V shape. This is a Mimi G pattern. It is, I think, the Simplicity S9052. I'll clarify that if I've got that wrong. I've popped in a little coat hook. On the inside it's all either French seamed or I haven't overlocked. Basically all the seams are enclosed in some way, shape or form, so I've kind of top stitched down the seams, etc., just to make the finish inside really neat and tidy and hopefully give this coat some longevity. The pattern actually has buttons on it, but I chose to put poppers on, which have worked really nicely, I think. And on the whole, I'm really pleased with this jacket. There are a few things. Oh, I can just see a little bit of my stitching is coming away there. I'll have to do a little bit of a job on that. There's me saying for longevity, but I guess that's the joy of knowing how to sew, is that when things need mending, then you can do so. I just need to sew that down. My hand stitching has just come away from where the loop is, probably where it's got a little bit more tension, then I have to do a slightly better job. So yeah, that's a second of my make 9. Now after sewing up the parka coat, I was kind of inspired on the coat front. I don't quite know what came over me. I think I was riding a bit of a high. And in my stash I had some Boucle fabric that I put on my make 9 because A, it was taking up a lot of room in my stash because obviously it's a big old bit of fabric, and B, I didn't want it to languish around in my stash for too long, because I bought the fabric because I loved it and I wanted to sew up, but I did think that perhaps I would end up sewing it up towards the end of the year, but I didn't. I sewed it up right at the beginning of the year, and I sewed up the Sewing Patterns by Mason Jamelia jacket. Now that was quite a new pattern at the time when it came out. There's 2 different versions you can do. There's a longer line and a more of a cropped version. I went for the longer line version. I haven't chosen to put any fastenings on, but I really love this. I've done a few little details in there. I've got sort of the matching fabric on the inside, and I've done the back yoke with that. I've got a little Rosy Cheeks label in there. I pop a little hanging loop in, and then inside all of the seams are bias bound, because I just thought that is such a lovely finish. It was so nice to do, and yeah, it was a really enjoyable sew, and I would definitely look to sew this up again. It's quite roomy, it's come out quite big, so I probably would size down if I was to do it again, but this definitely won't stop me wearing this one. It's a really kind of cozy make, and yeah, really pleased with it. It's obviously not appropriate for this time of year. I mean, it's not your uber thick coat, it's more of a kind of a spring and autumn, because it's not lined, but it's way too hot for this time of year. Now the next item is some trousers. Now I really want to get into trouser making at a little bit more depth, because I'd really like to master a little bit more about fitting of trousers. So whilst I'm going to put this pattern in the trouser section, it doesn't really fulfill what I had in mind in terms of a properly fitted pair of trousers, or at least a semi-fitted pair of trousers, because this is a really simple pattern that I did. Now I chose to make the Anna Allen Polono pants, which is basically just an elasticated pair of trousers, and I'll pop popping pictures in of me wearing them. I haven't actually got them to hand in any way. To be fair, they're just a plain black pair of trousers. They're not particularly interesting. So this one is a little bit of a cheat, if you like. I don't really think I should necessarily count it. So maybe a half mark on that. I have made trousers, but I definitely think I can do better and to make some that are more fitted or semi-fitted with a proper waistband, etc. And just a bit more form-fitting. But hey ho, I've slightly done a tick, so we'll do a half tick, I think, in that. Now I have done one final item from my makenine. So what does that calculate to? 2 coats, the bag, the one that I'm just about to show you, and the trousers, which is kind of half a make. So 4.5 to 5. 5 if I was being generous, 4 if I was being harsh. We'll go with 4.5. So the final make was the Tilly and the Buttons Lyra, and actually I've made 2 of them. I've made a long sleeve version and a short sleeve version, so I'll just grab them. So the first version that I made was a long sleeve version. Sorry if it's slightly crumpled, it hasn't been pressed again since I last wore it. It's, as I say, a long sleeve version. It's got a little Rosy Cheeks blue handmade label in there, and it's just got some very small navy buttons on there. I have made the waist tie for this, but I actually prefer to wear it with a belt. I'll pop in a picture of me wearing it. It's got an elasticated sleeve. I did lengthen the sleeves, I think, by 2 inches. I lengthened the bodice piece by I reckon 1.5 inches, and I added the Lotta skirt rather than the Lyra skirt because I didn't want all the gathering into the waist and the additional kind of gathering in the skirt, but that's come out really well. So, and not a full Lyra, but I'm definitely giving myself a tick for it because I fulfilled what I wanted to do in the sense of the kind of the collar stand, etc. The fact that I haven't done the true skirt on it, I'm not bothered by. This works for me and I'm really pleased with it. I'm really pleased with the outcome. I think I added 2 or 3 inches to the Lotta skirt length in terms of it's like a short version and a longer version, so I've added about 3 inches to the shorter version, so it comes just below the knee on me. So, and I also made a short sleeve version of the Lyra, doing the same hack that I did with adding the Lotta skirt and the same adjustments, apart from the fact I've done a short sleeve version on it. Now this is in a gorgeous fabric that I bought from the lovely Anna, who is has got the lovely company called Pattern Pouch Nest. I believe she might even still have some of this fabric on her website. It's a cotton fabric, and yeah, it's really nice. It's sewn up really nicely. It's quite bold for me, but I wore this to the Stitch Festival back in March, and the weather, we were just kind of approaching spring then, but the actual weather on that day was quite kind, so I didn't feel sort of too out of place wearing such a bright dress. And actually you never feel that out of place at one of those sort of festivals because people are always wearing lovely, bright and colourful and just more, what's the word I'm looking for, just more, just so it's just wear such lovely fabrics is what I'm trying to say. So you never feel that out of place in a bright garment. Yeah, so another version of the Lyra dress, so that's a tick definitely in the Lyra box. So as I say, I think I've fulfilled 4.5 of the 9 makes. So at the midway point, I'm midway through, so not too bad at all. So moving forward, the items that I have still got left to make is the Estelle dress by Sew Over It. I have the pattern, I have some fabric that I can make it in. I think the reason I've been slightly put off from making that is obviously it is much more of a form-fitted dress. I'm slightly worried about sizing, etc. I know it's got some negative ease in it, and I don't really want something that's particularly clingy to me. So if anybody's got any experience of making that dress and has got any hints and tips for me, I would really appreciate if you could drop me any comments. That would be fantastic. Another item I would like to make is something from the Cashmerette book, and also something from the Summer Dreaming book, and also from the last Sewing Bee book. And in relation to the Summer Dreaming book, my plan is to make the Sorrento jacket by Sew Over It, and my plan is to make that in July, because I am doing a collaboration with the lovely Marisa from the Umbrian Sewist on that. So hopefully that will be another tick really soon. And I would also like to make another pair of trousers. So I think that will, I'm hoping that by the end of the year, by the end of 2023, I will have ticked off everything on my Make 9. You know, this is just a personal challenge. It doesn't really matter if I don't get them all done. It's just something nice to do at the beginning of the year to set myself some goals, and it's something that obviously lots of other people in the sewing community take part in. And yeah, it doesn't really matter if I don't get them all done, but if I do, that would be brilliant. So halfway there, at the halfway point, I'm pretty chuffed with that. Do let me know how you're getting on with your Make 9 if you chose to take part this year, and sort of how you're getting on, whether you've completed it all, whether you've only managed to make one, you haven't managed to make any, you've made half, you've made two, whatever you've got up to. It doesn't really, you know, there's no judgment here. It's just fun to kind of play along and see how people are getting on. So I really hope you've enjoyed today's video. If you have, please do give me a like. If you haven't subscribed, I'd love it if you would consider doing so. I really hope you'll come back and chat to me again soon in the comments, and I really hope you have a lovely week. So I will say goodbye for now, and I will see you again really, really soon. Take care. Happy sewing. Bye bye.